Hello, welcome to Valorant patch notes 5.10. We're going to go through all the changes. So I changed to Cypher, Fade, and Harbor. I'm not going to read all this, but I'm going to just kind of give my own little overview. And they basically want Cypher to be a bit more competitive for the Sentinel slot. They want to improve his trapwire setups because they've got a bit predictable. And his ultimate is getting some more agency thrown into it, so then you're a bit more strong overall when you use your ultimate, and maybe a bit easier to use your ultimate in general. Because his restrictions were quite harsh for the actual value it gave, and I think they've kind of loosened those things up now. So maybe he'll have. I don't think he still doesn't have. I mean, he still has a better ult than Omen's, but overall, like his ult still isn't like massively good, but it's still pretty decent. We're gonna go with the changes. So first of all, trapwire maximum trapwire length increased from 1,000 to 1,500. So I believe this is 10 meters to 15 meters. I could be wrong, but I think 1,000 units is 10 meters. I could be wrong, completely wrong. Maybe someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So basically 10 to 15 meters is pretty good because there's a lot of areas in a lot of maps that are about just, well, they're not even 15, they're just over 10. So he couldn't quite put his trapwire in there. So I think Pearl on B is like a good example. I'm pretty sure it's like 14, 13 meters. And so then the trapwire can do the full length of B on Pearl, B long on Pearl. And speaking of Pearl, I think he's actually quite good on Pearl now. I actually think he might be better than Chamber, potentially, kind of depending how you want to play. Bear in mind that I don't think Jet is as good on Pearl, so he might not fit competitively, but I think in ranked he's actually fine. Chamber definitely still has the potential to pop off harder, but I mean Cypher's still still pretty good on the map, and I think Breeze is probably where he's going to see a lot more competitive play, because you can play the Jet on Breeze pretty well, and right now, like, essentially Chamber sort of melds these two bots together into one. And if you want to play like Cypher and you want to play like Cypher Jet, that's sort of just playing Chamber. So you kind of just, it's into interpretation right now until Chamber gets nerfs. And then we'll probably end up seeing Cypher and Jet being played primarily on Breeze. Maybe we'll see Neon as well, instead of the Jet. But we'll see, because I think Neon kind of got unlocked by the fact you could play Chamber. But you know, we'll have to see exactly. But these trapwire changes means that the actual ability to mix up your setups and to sort of like hold some wide open spaces for information or play around your trapwires have got a lot better. Overall, you can just create some nice trap setups on ones that are now unpredictable. Eventually, you know, people figured them out again. It's just kind of the nature of Cypher, unfortunately. But on the bright side, with having the amount of having a lesser restriction on his trapwire means that it's going to take a bit longer for him to be figured out potentially. However, a lot of his trapwires from like 10 meters below have already been kind of figured out, so he kind of only has half of that left. So he has like an increased half essentially. It's what you can kind of look at it as, but that might not be 100% accurate. But essentially, you know, he's going to get figured out again, but he may have enough mix-up room this time, and the meta might favour him eventually when Chamber gets nerfed. The neural theft. No reveals 2 times. There is a 4-second delay between the reveals. Time restriction to cast on enemy cubs to be removed, and maximum cast distance increased from 1,200 meters to 1,800 meters. So 18 meters or 1,800 meters. Hold up, 1,800 units, 18 meters, I think, and 12 meters from 12 meters. So overall, neural theft is pretty weak right now, but these changes have kind of made it a bit stronger. So I think the biggest change is actually this one, but we're going to go through the two first. So the reveals enemies 2 times, and there's 4-second delay between reveals. Essentially locks enemies in place for 4 seconds. The reason why it locks enemies in place is because it's a sense of having pressure on you for 4 seconds, where you can't really make a play, and the enemy kind of knows your general position. So you have to make a play within those 4 seconds. If you want to make a play, otherwise you're going to get revealed again. And you can't really flank very easily because you're going to be revealed for those 4 seconds. On the bright side, you know, you can kind of play mind games where you can you know, like you could always do with Cypher, where you could like look like you're moving in one direction, then go the other. You can still do that. It just takes a bit longer to do that against him, right? You have to wait 4 seconds essentially to do that again. So, you know, there's some timing stuff to figure out, and there's also some stuff where you need to kind of understand how much you're getting pressured, and if you can make a play within the 4 seconds. If you don't, and then you have to back off and things like that. Right? It actually is a really, really strong tool for pressure right now with these changes. It's a lot stronger than it was. Because the effect doesn't go away instantly. You are pressured for the 4 seconds. So it is nice. But I don't think it's perfect yet, but I think it's pretty good. And the maximum cast distance has gone up from 12 meters to 18 meters. So a 6 meter increase. I think is pretty good because you can kind of see it how Sage Res works as well, where you want your teammates to die in like good positions to actually get your ult off. And so I've kind of wanted the same thing in some ways, right? So any kill within 18 meters, give or take, you know, there's going to be some times where you can probably afford to move like a couple steps forward to ult. So we know 18 to like 22 meters, you can probably ult most of the time. And before it was probably about 12 to 16 meters ish, right? So you've actually got quite a big buff there, because there's going to be some kills that you just wouldn't be able to ult normally, and now you can. So actually pretty good. There's going to be plenty of angles that are now just better for Cypher when he has his ult up, because he'll be able to ult afterwards. But the biggest change for me, at least, off first glance and not actually watching any gameplay yet, however I am predicting that this is going to be the biggest change, is time restriction to cast on enemy corpses has been removed. And the reason why that's the biggest change is because before you were locked into kind of using your ult kind of instantly when you got the kill, or you have to wait for the max amount of time to kind of get maybe some of the max amount of value in that round. And now you can kind of time it perfectly if you want to. So what I mean by timing it perfectly is, I'm going to construct this scenario right now. Right, you're attacking B main on Ascent, and you've got the first kill, or your team in general had the first kill in B main, and then you've managed to take the site with util. 4v4 retake is going to be on your hands basically. Maybe someone got traded or went too greedy, and now what you can do is you can sit in main, and then you can wait for the retake. And when the retake starts, you can press your ult on the corpse, and most likely they're going to know your position at that point, or they can basically say that you're within 18 meters of the corpse. So that's quite a far range. But maybe you make sounds or something, or maybe they see where the hat flies from. So they kind of know your position. But on the bright side is that you're revealing them for 4 seconds. You're delaying them for 4 seconds. You're giving impression to them for 4 seconds. You're even potentially getting kills, because if they're in like the main area of Ascent, B, with like in front of the switch, they can get spammed by your teammates who are on site, right? So that's just like me thinking about basic theoretically, like and there's going to be plenty of times where you can time when you're ulting pretty well. It also works as well, like sometimes like in ranked, where you're going to have people are going to play like the default in ranked, which is like just spread it across the map and do random things, is what feels like default is for me in my rank games. And someone like maybe your Jet on the opposite side of the map gets a kill, right? And maybe at that point it's better for you to just give up what you're watching, and then you can just run round to the opposite side of the map and ult, and then you can sort of find out what you want to do from there. Maybe it's not quite the opposite side of the map. That might be a bit too stupid, but maybe like the mid part of the map, and then you can run there and get it. Get there your ult, get your ult out, and start making pressure on the map in a 5v4. I think in that sense as well, I think Sky ult I think is still better than Neural Theft, at least for finding where people are. But I think it has a very interesting thing where it's going to lock people in place for 4 seconds. It's kind of like I'm not sure if anyone's ever played Rainbow Six Siege, who's watching this, but I think there's a guy. I think he's called Lion, the operative. What's his name? Operator. What are they called? Operators. I don't know what it's called. But he sort of like has a thing where he activates his ability, and if anyone moves, then they get revealed. And I think he kind of I think this ult is kind of similar in that sense, where the pressure can lock people in place. Obviously, it's not quite the same because they can still make the plays within time of moving. Within the time of moving, within the 4-second window, they can still make plays. But I don't think his ult is now a information ult. It's more of a pressure type ult where you want to keep people in place for 4 seconds. I think it's actually pretty good as well about doing that, and it also does reveal them too. So it has like 2 good uses now instead of just one, which was reveal the enemy and potentially see which direction they're going. That's basically the 2, and it was only potentially, and you could get mind games with it. So I guess you can technically get mind game with this too, but overall it's just a lot better. Okay, I'll stop talking about that now. I'm not going to go over the quality of life stuff, but essentially Raze is going to be better teammate of Cypher's, same with Sova, and the yellow silhouette is a lot clearer overall, especially when you can see the enemy, so that's good. Fade. So Fade is going to get nerfed, so her ultimate is going to be increased in cost, and the Prowler overall is going to get a bit nerfed, and honestly it's going to be a lot less frustrating to play against. So Prowler's duration has gone from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds. So this actually translates to the amount of distance that you can actually clear with the Prowler. So there's going to be times where you actually need to be closer than you would have need than before now, because it simply lasts less time. There's also some angles or some areas that you need to clear that you will need to actually be closer to the area now, because you don't have enough time to clear everything within the 2.5 seconds. And I think that's a pretty good change. It means that the Fade needs to either get closer into the area to get punished, or they just simply don't fully clear the area. Simply put, really. I think Haven A is quite a big thing where you almost don't have enough time to clear everything. And if you want to have enough time to clear everything, you actually need to be in the short properly, and someone can actually swing off the Prowler if they're close enough. So I think that's actually quite relevant to Fade. And so next one is delay on the bite. After reaching target is increased. So basically just gives you more time to shoot it. And then hitbox improvements. Probably just going to be the hitbox is going to be a lot closer to what you actually see. Which is really nice, because honestly it's frustrating when you looks like you're not shooting the Prowler at all, and then actually you're shooting through the Prowler at someone and they don't die because of it. Very, very annoying. Near sight duration on hit is reduced. So this near sight for me was the strongest near sight. I'm not sure if because it was the color changes, because Fade has like a black near sight, Omen has like a dark purple near sight, and Reyna has a pink purple sort of near sight. And I think Fade's near sight is the strongest one. It could just be that for me personally, the color. For me, it just seems to be that I don't process the colors very well from Fade, and I process Omens and Reyna's a bit better. It feels a lot less harsh. Also, with the origination, where the near sight originates from as well with Reyna's could be a factor of that too, especially because I can kill the near sight. Yeah, maybe Reyna's overall is just different that way. But with Omens and Fades in particular, I feel like Fades near sight is closer to you, so you actually feel a lot more claustrophobic compared to Omens. That could just be me. But they've made it very, very close to normal flashes. So KO's flash is 2.25 seconds. So they've only made it 0.5 seconds away. And for clarity, that was it was 1.25 seconds before this patch. So, and near sight's going to have to compensate that way, right? Because they're not full flashes. If the person that gets nearsighted and if the person gets nearsighted and you're too close to them, then you're still visible. So maybe that maybe they'll actually start being a lot less. They're definitely a lot less lenient on this near sight now than do the near sights. So we'll just have to see how that pans out. But overall, it's a very big nerf. Prowlers now fizzle out and no longer debuff, instead of debuffing its target if they teleport away before it's finished animation. But that's like just Chamber, really, and maybe Jet. I'm not sure how that works with Jet completely. Or Omen, I guess too. One thing also I want to say about the near sight duration is that it also means that when you're layering CC, it's layered for less time, and also if you want to layer CC with the Prowler being first, then it's a new timing now for layering that CC. So if you're playing like Fade Breach and you want to use the Fade Prowler first and then stun and then Prowler again or something, then it's a different timing now that people have to learn. Nightfall cost has increased, so you're less likely to want to farm this ult now. But overall, I think you still might farm it. Its value hasn't changed. It's just that the cost has gone up or down. So, gone up or down, gone up. So you might need to invest more. Either you want to invest a lot more into it because you like the baseline sort of value of the ult, or you're going to not invest as much into it because it's maybe a lot less efficient to. Because of this one, I don't 100% know which one. It's probably more opinion based and how you play each map. So teams will be figuring this out for them, if that works out for them or not. But I think in ranked overall, I think it's still completely fine to try and go for sort of like tutoring the ult with the orbs and planting and diffusing. Especially because in ranked people don't do that stuff very well anyway. So if you are the fades, and you're like wanting to try and get your ult as much as possible, then just take the diffusers, take the orbs. So Harbor. So I really like Harbor. I haven't done like I haven't done like my thoughts on Harbor and things like that. But now that I'm I think we're like 2 weeks in to Harbor, I think Harbor's actually one of the hardest characters in the game to be good at. I think Yoru's the hardest, and then I think it's Harbor. I actually think it's harder than Viper. But that might just be because Harbor's newer than Viper. Could be wrong. As time goes on, I'll have probably a clearer view. But for right now, he definitely feels harder than Viper. Because I think mainly his wall positioning, where he actually needs to be positioned to get good wall value, is actually quite hard to think about on the fly. And obviously that might just be because we haven't. I personally haven't figured him out fully yet. And there probably are players that are very good at that and have figured it out. And don't feel like it's as hard as things like Viper, but for me personally, it does feel like the second hardest character in the game. And I think these buffs are good. I think overall these are safe buffs though. So Cascade is getting doubled in charges, or 1 to 2, so he gets 2 charges now of Cascade. So Cascade is the wall that he pushes out in front of him. So I think overall this is pretty good for attack. But the problem is with Harbor is that he's always good. He's pretty much been good on attack since he came out, but defense is one of these weaker points where he's only really good at taking space. So when he has to defend the space, he can be kind of run over. It's similar to Sova in that sense, where Sova's pretty good at taking space, but when it comes down to defending space, it has to be a niche that he fits into. And right now, I think personally, the niche that I've found for him on defense is either mass using walls to break up sight lines, which is, arguably not that niche considering other smokers can do that too, other controllers can do it too, and not even controllers, like Jet can do it as well. But the other niche that I found is using your Cove to create 1v1s that are untradeable, or like borderline untradeable, not quite untradeable, not like Chamber Jet level untradeable, but fairly untradeable, where you can just like dip back into the smoke after getting the kill. That's like where I found like he can sort of play. It's very similar to Jet and Reyna and Chamber, but it's not obviously not nowhere near the same level of those agents in that sense. Especially because he only has 1 charge and it's also breakable, so you can get caught. You can get caught off the positioning because you don't completely reposition. But it can be good. I just want them to change Cove a bit. I want them to when the shield breaks, the smoke shouldn't go down. I think that's what he needs to be really, really strong. But I understand that these are safe changes because they think he is one of the hardest agents to play. And so do I. I think he probably is the second hardest agent in the game. And I think safe changes like this, when you're dealing with one of the harder agents in the game, you want to be quite safe with the changes because you don't want to get people to then suddenly figure him out and then he's going to be one of the most oppressive forces, especially in like the higher parts of the ladder. I'm not going to go over the real-time text evaluation because that's only NA right now. But essentially, I'm guessing it's just like automatic isolated chat ban within that game or something. That's what it seems like to me. The menu update is big, having been able to one-click access everything again. Map updates, so the doors are going to destroy placeable objects, which I don't really find happen to me very often. And there's actually a bug that could have actually been relevant. Is this one? I'm not 100% sure if it was relevant. I didn't see much Astra in my games personally, but this could have been very relevant in like high low solo queue, probably high low solo queue, like Radiant. Fixed a bug where Astra could cast a Fake Nebula right at the start of the round, before her star charged up. So essentially, you could things like Pearl B. If you have like a neon, you could probably fake the star for the neon before your star charged up. Same with like maybe a long on Haven, for the door at the start when you're first attacking. That those things technically you know that might have been changing some games a bit more than it should have done, or like wrongly because it was a bug. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.